Guys, welcome back to my podcast. Baby, we talking about Stranger Things today. And I know some of y'all like, what Stranger Things? I thought you used to talk about Barry. I thought you was all about Barry. I am. Don't get it twisted. I definitely still love Barry. That's still my favorite show, y'all. And I'm not completely abandoning it. I just have to face the facts. Like Erica says in Stranger Things, that's just the facts. Season 3 is over with. Um, so I don't feel like there's as much content to discuss with Barry for right now. Um, and again, that doesn't mean that I won't talk about Barry anymore because as we know, and as I've already mentioned in previous podcast episodes, HBO said that there will be a season 4. So we have that to look forward to. But again, who knows how long that's going to take? They have to actually make season 4. And I believe they're starting production soon. So that's great. And as we get some new news about season 4, I'm definitely open to discussing that. Or even if there's something you feel like you wanted me to maybe touch on a little bit more with season 3 or with the show as a whole, let me know and I'll go back and review it. But for right now, we're going to transition into Stranger Things. And yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be fun because, it feels like a fresh start. I didn't want this podcast to get too boring or stale. And I feel like if it's boring for me, it'll be boring for you as a listener. So um, I definitely feel like talking about other TV shows is probably the best way to go. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things season 4. So I'm only focusing on season 4, just so you guys know. I just feel like honestly, going back to try to discuss all 3 seasons would be way too much because these episodes are like an hour long. Actually, season 4 is like an hour and a half long for each episode. So that's a lot of content compared to Barry. Barry is only like 30-minute episode, sometimes a little less than that. So I'm sorry, I just don't have I just feel like it would take too long. I don't have the energy to try to go back and discuss all 3 seasons. So we're just going to focus on season 4, which is the current season. Um, if you didn't know, it's streaming on Netflix now. The last 2 episodes, episode 8 and 9, just dropped on July 1st. So everybody's, been talking about that, freaking out about that, crying about it. I know I did. So I'm all cut up. I've watched the whole season, but I do feel like it would be kind of cool to go back to episode 1 and just kind of discuss what's happened this season. Like, it's been crazy, you guys. Like, if you know, it has been insane. And for those of you who, I guess, don't watch Stranger Things or don't really know anything about it, I mean, I feel like at this point, everybody and their mama watch Stranger Things, or at least they've heard of it. And if you haven't heard of it, you've probably been living under a rock because it's like the top selling show of Netflix, I'm pretty sure. So I guess I could try to kind of give you a little bit of overview of what the show is about, although it's hard to explain because it's one of those shows where you just have to watch it for yourself. Because like I said, so much stuff has happened and so much stuff happened just this season. And you can't just jump into it and start watching it because you're going to be so confused. You're going to have to go back to the pilot episode. You're going to have to go back to the first season to understand everything. Because with this season, I noticed there's been a lot of callbacks to season 1. So again, all these references to what happened earlier, it wouldn't make sense to you if you just started at season 4. So I definitely recommend going back to watching it from the beginning. And, all the episodes are on Netflix, so you could binge watch it. You don't have to wait the following week to watch a new episode. So you could catch up pretty fast if you have time to watch the episodes. Because like I said, they're pretty much like an hour long each episode. But it kind of flies by when you're really into it, to be honest. So yeah, but I think most of you guys maybe listening probably have seen Stranger Things and hopefully you've seen all of season 4 already. If not, I'm definitely going to be talking about spoilers and everything. So if you're like me and you don't like things to be spoiled, then I definitely recommend bookmarking my episodes and coming back to them later. I always go live every Tuesday at 1, but then I upload same day on YouTube and Spotify. So, of course, you can go back. You can even go back to my Facebook page and watch my episodes. And then if you don't care about spoilers and you just want to hear me talk about Stranger Things, then stick around because that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I'm going to try to fit as much of episode 1 into this podcast episode, because again, there's so much stuff to talk about, which is great, but it's also like, whew, that's going to be a lot of talking for me. And it's also going to be hard to try to fit in so much stuff in one episode. So sometimes I might have to continue it into the next episode. And then I feel like, too, again, if I'm talking about Barry one episode, I might go back and then talk about Stranger Things. So I might kind of flip flop between the two. Hopefully that doesn't confuse anybody. And then I think eventually I'll probably end up talking about another TV show. But for now, I think I kind of just want to take it one show at a time, just so it's not too much going on. And like I said, this is pretty much all the rave right now. So what better time to talk about it than now? And yeah, let's get into episode 1 of this season. So, oh wait, no, I lied. Okay, I said I was going to talk about I said I was going to say a little bit about what Stranger Things is. So, how could I explain this? Maybe you guys should shoot off in the comments and explain to somebody if they've never seen it, they don't know what it's about. But the way I would describe it is, or the way I guess the best way to summarize it is, it's basically about a group of kids that live in a city called Hawkins. It's in Indiana, and they discover a lot of supernatural stuff. They come across this girl named 11 who has like telekinesis powers, and they befriend her. And once she kind of comes into their lives, things just kind of like pretty much go crazy. And one of their friends in the group, Will, goes missing, and he ends up in the Upside Down. That's why I put that down there. And the Upside Down is basically like, it's basically Hawkins, but it's Hawkins that's filled with like monsters, if that makes sense. That's probably a really bad description, but it's not a place that you want to be. I'll say that. So when he goes missing, and then this girl 11 comes into their lives, things just kind of like take off from there. So it's definitely like a supernatural fantasy, sci-fi horror show. So if you're into that, you'll definitely love the show. And I also think too, because the cast, or because the main cast is a group of kids, it feels very like, if you're familiar with Stephen King's work, it's a lot like it. And it's a lot like, I think a lot of people compare it to like the Goonies. They compare it to Ghostbusters. That it has that kind of feel of it, especially with the first 2 seasons. Now this season has been like really brutal. When I say brutal, I mean brutal. Like it's giving like like 80s horror films. It's very much inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street, it, and like I think people were comparing it to like Resident Evil and all these like really big horror movies from the 80s. And the Duffer Brothers, who created the show and write for the show, they've been pretty open about being inspired about a lot of like 80s horror and stuff that they grew up on. Oh yeah, and I didn't mention that the show is set in the 80s, so it's all like 80s aesthetics and stuff like that. And I think that's a big part of the reason why it probably appeals to so many people, because you have older people who were kids or teens in the 80s and they watched that stuff, and I think it's really nostalgic for them. And then you have people like me or younger that weren't really around back then, but it's still kind of fun to watch and kind of take it in how things kind of were back then, although it's still a TV show at the end of the day. But there's a lot of like cool 80s references in it. So but yeah, it's a great show. It's a really great show. I got into it late. I didn't start watching it until season 3, I think, was about to come out. And then I pretty much just binge watched the first 2 seasons, really liked the first 2 seasons. And then season 3 came out, and I was like, this is my favorite season. I love season 3. I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people didn't like it, but I think there was some criticism because they didn't like how season 3 kind of split up the group. And I think that was the first time we had seen that happen. But I kind of felt like it brought like a new dynamic to the show, so I wasn't mad at it. I think the best part of season 3 for me was like Dustin and Steve's relationship, or their friendship, and then just the whole like their whole trio and everything. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty fun. I really love season 3, but now I don't know. I might be saying season 4 is the best so far. I don't know. Season 4 has been insane. Um, And to be honest, I don't remember a lot of what happened in season 3 or what happened in the previous seasons because I watched it years ago. It was on hiatus for a while again because of the pandemic, like a lot of TV shows were. So I feel like I don't remember a lot of what happened, but for sure, I love season 3 the most. And then, like I said, it's kind of rivaling season 4 for me right now. So might be season 4 that's the best. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. But yeah. Okay. Let's get into that's a lot. See, it's hard to even try to explain because there's just so much stuff. But let's get into season 4, episode 1. So episode 1 to 7, let me get this right, is volume 1. And then the last 2 episodes, episode 8 and 9, that just released on the 1st, they're calling it volume 2. So they kind of split it up. And so yeah, so I'm gonna go through all of volume 1 and then I'll go into volume 2. I would like to talk about the finale now because it just came out, but I feel like it would make more sense to just go back to episode 1 instead of trying to do it in reverse. So okay, so last season, oh, did y'all peep my shirt too? I'm representing, gotta get the Stranger Things shirt. Um, so last season left off with the group, again, with the group splitting up. So Will, Joyce, Jonathan, and Elle are in California. Mike and Dustin and Lucas and Nancy and all of them are still in Hawkins. So I would say, yeah, pretty much the whole season, everybody's still split again. And then kind of like season 3, but it's just different. It's different. So, because now we're in like a whole other city. I feel like the show has always kind of taken place in Hawkins for the most part. So now we're showing like California and everything like that. And again, this is 1986. So, we're back in time here. And then, so I always like to talk about with TV episodes, like the opening shot and then the way it ends. I always feel like those two scenes are usually pretty significant. I said that with Barry, I used to kind of emphasize on that a lot. So with the opening scene, it was a flashback. It was showing Dr. Brenner, and I believe it was in 1975. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember dates, but it was a flashback of Dr. Brenner. Dr. Brenner, if you guys don't know, is the scientist, the one that created basically it's really hard to explain again if you don't know. So basically he's kind of like the reason why Elle has these powers. And then not only Elle, but it was a bunch of other kids that he had in Hawkins lab, and pretty much just kind of like testing their powers and kind of just using them basically as like a science experiment. And so we're back. And so at the time, 11 was much younger than, I don't remember exactly how old she was, but basically that whole scene is kind of showing like when she was in there, and there ended up being a really bad massacre of like pretty much all the kids getting murdered except for Elle. And the way it's shot makes it look like Elle was the one that did it, because there's a scene where Dr. Brenner comes into the room and she turns around and her gown is like all bloodied, and she just looks like she just went to battle. And he's just like, what did you do? Like, what have you done? And so that scene was like, whoa. I think everybody that watched that, including me, was like, wait a minute, like, did she kill everybody? Like that, hold on. Because if like she's killed people in the past, but it's always been from a place of defense. It's usually like she's protecting her friends, or she's, like if somebody's coming after her, because like the government sometimes goes after her. It's always been from a place of, like a defense, a protection. It's never been a malicious thing. She's not like this evil girl that's going around killing people. So it was just like, whoa, like that's kind of out of character. Like, why would she kill everybody? And it was just crazy. So the way episode 1 was starting off was you already knew it was about to be some stuff. You're like, this season is about to be insane. And it definitely was. And so, yeah, so we get that flashback from the 70s, and then it cuts to present time, 1986, and Elle in California, and she's in high school. So I think they're all freshmen in high school, I believe, all of like the core group. and Elle is with Will. So they're in the same grade. Jonathan's still in high school too, Will's older brother, but I'm assuming, I think he's a senior, yeah, because he talks about college and stuff. So they're in class together and everything like that. And we quickly learn that Elle is being bullied. Um, and what's crazy is like there's this contrast, this is back and forth of like showing her in school of what's really happening. And then she's also writing a letter to Mike, who's still in Hawkins, her boyfriend, and telling him like, oh, things are great. Like my speech is getting better. I'm really good at math. I'm making new friends. And it's like it's like the complete opposite of what's really happening. And then you have to remember back then, there was no social media, there was no FaceTime, there was no texting, none of that stuff. So really the only way he could know what's going on is if she's writing him letters or if he's able to call her or whatever. So it wasn't like he could, fully keep up with that or to be able to like know that she was lying. He's just reading it going, oh, she's having a great time in California. And I think she was lying about that because she probably didn't want him to worry. And I kind of feel like a part of that was too probably just being embarrassed or maybe just feeling like, I don't know, maybe just feeling ashamed because I think she is different, but she's always felt different too. And I think there was like some embarrassment there too, because I know some people were like, why would she lie about that? Mike is her boyfriend. Why would she not just tell him what's going on? But like, you have to remember they're all like 15, and they're trying to just figure out themselves. They're trying to figure out high school, how to navigate all that stuff. And you guys know, I mean, we've all been through high school. It's not easy, whether it's back then or now. So I kind of like, I don't think it was right that she lied to him, but I understand that she wouldn't want to say like, hey, I'm having a hard time here and things are just not good for me because it's not really much that he could do all the way from Hawkins. And even if she has Will there, the thing that kind of irritated me a little bit with Will was that to me, he didn't really step up that much. I know he felt bad for her. Like I know Will and Elle have never really been that close. I think they're closer now because obviously they live together. So she's kind of, I mean, that's basically like his sister now. And I know Will has never been, he's always been kind of like the more sensitive one in the group, and he's never been like the one to be like a fighter, you know what I mean? So I didn't really expect him to come in and be like, try to gang up on the bullies. But when she was getting bullied, it was like they were isolating her, and I think it made it easier for them to bully her because it looked like nobody was on her side. And I kind of wish Will had kind of stepped up and kind of been like, hey, like, leave her alone. Would that have helped? I don't know. But I was kind of like rooting for him to say something because every time that she would get bullied, he was kind of just watching from afar. And then afterwards, he would come up and try to help her. And I was just like, dang, like, I kind of wish he would have like at least came up and pulled her away or something like that. But again, I know they're all young and just trying to figure things out. And I know that's not really Will to step up and be like, hey guys, like that's not really his character. He's never really been that way. And so, yeah, it's sad that she's getting bullied and she's really having a hard time. And let's see. I have to make sure I'm getting it right where everybody is because, like I said, everybody's kind of split up. Even back in Hawkins, they're kind of split too because Lucas is a part of the basketball team. So he's kind of focused on wanting to be a part of the popular crowd, which is a very, I don't want to say cliche, but it's a trope that we see in a lot of like 80s and 90s TV shows and movies and stuff. There's like the jocks, you have the nerds or the freaks or the geeks or whatever they want to call them. You have band people, everybody's like a part of their own clique, their own club, that kind of thing. And so Lucas is a part of the basketball team, although he doesn't really play, but he wants to be a part of that crowd. And then you have Mike and Dustin, who are a part of Hellfire Club, which is the D&D game that they always played in the first 3 seasons. And I think there's a split between them two and Lucas because, that happens. Like it's natural when you're in high school. Sometimes you kind of split apart from your friends because you have different interests. Sometimes you make new friends and it kind of, it's not always because something really bad happens or you have a falling out. Sometimes you just kind of go your separate ways. And so you're kind of seeing that distance with all of them. I mean, they're still friends, but it's like, clearly like Lucas is thinking one thing and then Mike and Dustin are thinking another. And then Max is like completely isolated herself, which is really sad. She's just like grieving. she's still grieving her brother with everything that happened with Billy. And I don't blame her, it's sad because you can see that Lucas is trying to be there for her, but she's clearly pushing him away, and that's kind of pushed everyone away. And she's just really like guilt ridden, I think, is what it is. And so she's by herself. So even the kids in Hawkins, they're all split up too. So it's kind of, I feel like this part of the show is kind of, at least for season 4, it's kind of like the only normalcy we get, like seeing them in high school and seeing how they're kind of going in their own separate directions and everything. Because after when spring breaks happens and they're not in high school anymore, it's just complete chaos. So this is kind of like the little bit of normalcy that we see in season 4 with them. Just seeing them like grow up, because in season 1, I think they're like, dude, I don't even remember how old they are, but they're kids. They're like, if you go back and watch season 1 and then you look at the way they look in season 4, it's crazy. It's like, how did they grow up so much? But yeah, so they're not kids anymore. I'm calling them kids, but they're teenagers now. So yeah, it was kind of nice that they included that, because I feel like that's realistic. I think everybody can relate to that. Whether you're in high school or if you've been through high school, you know how things could go. You know how cruel kids can be. You know how it feels to try to fit in, or to, want to be a part of a crowd, or, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to keep up with your grades and friends and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like where we see everybody. And then, before I get into new characters that have been introduced to season 4, I did want to inform you guys that my podcast is sponsored by Streann Media. So if you want to check it out and use their Streann Studio software like I'm using right now, all you have to do is go to studio.streann.com, and Streann is spelled with 2 N's. And honestly, it's really easy to use. I mean, you see me using it right now. All you have to do is put in your email. You get a login code, and then you're in. And you could definitely live stream the way I am. You could go through Facebook, and you could go through other social media channels if you'd like. I believe they have the option to stream on Twitch and YouTube and things like that. Maybe I'll have to try that out one day, but for now I'm sticking to Facebook. And then, yeah, so as a podcast host, or just if you want to live stream, you kind of have your own little features on the side you're able to play around. If you've noticed, I'm pretty sure you have the sign, Stranger Things, and the Welcome to the Upside Down. I did that through the Streann Studio software. So they have all these cool little things that you can do, and it looks like they're going to be adding a little bit more features maybe coming up. And so as they do that, I'll try to show you guys some of the things you could do while you're using Streann Studio. And obviously, if you're just listening to this, you'd have to go to my Facebook page or YouTube to actually see what I'm talking about. But yeah, and so let's see. I was going to try to do something else, but like, I don't want to disrupt this. I kind of like this, what's going on here. So I'm just going to leave it like that. But you guys can let me know if it's too distracting, then I won't do that next episode. But yeah, check out Streann Studio if you would like to create your own podcast, or if you want to do some live streaming and you want to go through Facebook like me, or like I said, you go through Twitch or YouTube. It's really very simple to do. And hopefully if you guys create your own content using Streann Studio, you could tag them. They're on social media as well. And then you could tag me, because I would love to see the content you make as well. So thanks to Streann Media for allowing me to do this podcast. Okay. Now, let's get back into Stranger Things, because there's a lot to talk about, baby. There's a lot to talk about. So the new characters we see in season 4, let's start with Chrissy. So we see Chrissy, she's kind of like a prominent, I would say, character in the first episode of the season. Chrissy is like head cheerleader, most popular girl, probably. Well, do they ever really say that? But probably like most popular girl in school, or one of the most popular girls in school. And we see that she's having hallucinations. And we don't really know why as an audience. It's just kind of crazy, because we're just like, what is going on with this girl? And she's new, so we don't know anything about her except for the fact that she's a cheerleader. And then we get a scene with her throwing up in the bathroom, and you kind of quickly learn that she must be either bulimic or she has some type of eating disorder, because when she's hallucinating, it's her mom's voice at first, and her mom is like calling her all kinds of names and calling her like a fat pig and talking about, let's see if we can fit you in this dress. And so you're like, oh, okay. Because I think at first a lot of people, we were watching it going, is she pregnant? But no, it's definitely, I think, an eating disorder. And so that's the first hallucination that we see her have. And it's pretty creepy because it's like in the school bathroom. And then you see like these weird feet outside of the stall. And we're all like, hold on. Who is that? What is that? And that is the first. Is that the first? Yeah, I think that's the first time we get a little piece of Vecna, which is the big supervillain this season. And we clearly see that like Nightmare on Elm Street reference where he's able to get into people's minds. And pretty much, and again, it's kind of like Pennywise too, like where he's seeing what you're most afraid of, like your deepest, darkest secrets, and which is scary. It's like being able to get into your mind and know what somebody is feeling guilty about, what somebody is really hurt about, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. So he could see that. And that's how he kind of targets his victims. And so with Chrissy, like I said, obviously with her having that eating disorder, she's an easy target. And when she's in the bathroom, Max, she tries to help her at one point, but, you know, she tells her to go away. And so she's kind of like dealing with this on her own. And then the next hallucination she has is she goes into the woods, which was so like, again, I know we were all watching that going, really? Why are you walking into the woods when you're having hallucinations? But she goes out like off of school grounds, and then she runs into Eddie, which is another new character that we have this season. Eddie is like the leader of the Hellfire group. That's the same group that Mike and Dustin are in. So he's kind of seen as like, you know, like how every high school has that like weirdo kid where you're just like, what is your deal, dude? He's kind of like that. And he, you know, doesn't like the jocks and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't care about those types of things, but and what's funny is too, is like, I'm pretty sure the dude is like 20 or something, because there's a joke in there about him finally graduating high school. And I think something about him getting held back a couple of times. So I'm like, there's no way this guy is a teenager. He has to be like 20 now, which is hilarious. But Chrissy runs into Eddie in the woods, and then you kind of see them, you know, having like a nice little moment of like, hey, do you remember me? Like, we went to school when we were younger, type of thing. And then he offers her weed, and she asks for something stronger. And so it's like, Miss Thang, you are having hallucinations. Do you really think taking hardcore drugs is gonna help you with that? Do you think that would be the best choice? No, it would not be. But of course, she's not thinking like that. I think she's just kind of desperate to make them go away, or maybe to like, I don't know, to see something else, to see something that's not what she's been seeing. Oh yeah, and another prominent thing with her hallucinations is she's seeing and hearing a clock. And so that's a big thing. That's a big part of season 4. And I'll talk about that more as I get more into season 4 and, you know, volume 1 and volume 2, as to why she's seeing a clock and why you're hearing the chimes. Because it's like a big grandfather clock that she's seeing. And then along with like a lot of other disturbing images. And so, yeah, so we got Christy. Her boyfriend Jason is a part of the basketball team, so he knows Lucas and everything. He's like head of the basketball team with the head cheerleader, that kind of thing. And Jason is like, how can I describe him? He's like Zac Efron in high school, but like much more annoying, I would say. Yeah, I'm sorry, but he's kind of like, I don't know, he's like one of those guys in high school where seems like everything is great about them and perfect, but then you just kind of know there's something underneath that really isn't right. And he, you know, he's one of those people that can make like really good speeches and get the crowd going and all that kind of stuff. Like, he just comes across as like too perfect, if you know what I mean. Like, when you see somebody and you're like, there's no way your life is that perfect, and you're not that perfect. Like, nobody is. And we definitely quickly learned that he's not. But so you have Chrissy, you have her boyfriend Jason, you have Eddie, and then and the whole, the rest of the basketball team. And then Argyle is another new character for the season. He's a part of the California crew, so he's best friends with Jonathan, and I believe they're both seniors and stuff, and he's pretty much just the dude that always gets high in this show. So he's kind of like, again, like probably like an outsider, but not as much as Eddie. I would say he's probably more so just the type to maybe like keep to himself and just get high and everything. And he kind of became like the comedic relief, I think, this season. I mean, Dustin is still pretty funny and everything, and Steve is funny too, but he was definitely like, every time he said something, you were just like, bruh, seriously, because he's just high the whole time. And then yeah, so those are kind of like the new characters that we get introduced to in the beginning. And yeah, let me see. I want to make sure I'm getting this right, because again, there's just so much stuff that happens. I tried to take a few notes because I don't want to go through the whole entire episode, obviously, because I feel like most of you guys have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna see it, so I don't really need to go step by step of everything that happens. But I think episode 1 was, first of all, it was a really good like first episode for a season, because I think it really set the scene for what was to come, like what was going to happen and everything. And again, I think giving us that little bit of normalcy with the characters, like them being in high school and dealing with high school things and teenage things and all that kind of stuff was nice, because later on it ends up being way worse. And so let me just fast forward to the ending scene, because this is the scene that really, I think, shook all of us. It definitely shook me. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So remember when I said Chrissy was trying to get drugs from Eddie? So he offers her weed and she says, do you have something stronger? And so after they have this big game, which is a really cool shot, by the way, the whole sequence between the basketball game and then the D&D game, and they kind of like switch back and forth between the two scenes. And I think we're all kind of like, is somebody gonna win? Are they gonna lose? That kind of thing. And then they end up both winning. So that was a pretty cool shot for the first episode. And then after the game, she goes to Eddie's trailer, and he's looking around for the drugs to give her. And I think he was going to give her, I don't remember if they said what it was. I don't know if he was looking for pills or something, but it was going to be something pretty strong, I think. And so he's looking for the drugs, and she's standing there waiting for him. And then of course she starts hallucinating. And I think immediately I was like, dude, if something happens to her, like everybody's going to think Eddie did it, because he's already seen as like a freak. So I was like, this is not good. This is really not good. And so she starts hallucinating, and then we kind of see that it's pretty much all of this is like in her head, because when Eddie finds her, she's standing there and her eyes are like rolling to the back of her head, and it's really creepy. It's like a really creepy sight. And he's trying to snap her out of it, and it doesn't work because she's just too far into the hallucination. Again, I know I keep saying this, but it's very like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like Vecna's definitely like Freddy Krueger. He has like this big claw on one hand, and he's messing with her, making her see her parents in these really like gruesome ways. And she's running through the house and everything. And then at the end, we see Vecna, like we see his face and full body for the first time, and it's really disgusting. He's very ugly. And and he approaches her, and I think he says, it's time for your suffering to end. And so I knew when he said that, I was like, yeah, this girl's dead. She ain't making it. And she did die, by the way. So he puts his claw like in front of her face, and it's almost like it lifts her up like in the real world. And then you see her levitating, and it's kind of like, I keep giving all these references just so it kind of makes sense to people that don't know. It's kind of like exorcism, I guess, because her body lifts and Eddie's just like, whoa, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And yeah, her death was like really messed up. I mean, everybody's death in the season was bad, but like hers, I think because hers was the first. So it was just like, oh my God, like she was mangled. When I said this girl was dead, like she was dead. It wasn't like a quick death. It was like a torturous death. Like her eyes are gone, her limbs are twisted and stuff, and yeah, it was bad. Like bones broken, that kind of thing. So, and I think like, I don't think we've ever, not that I can recall, the deaths have ever been that gruesome before in Stranger Things. Like, I know there's been times where Elle would like snap people's necks just by like, moving her own neck and stuff. But yeah, I don't remember them being that gruesome. So that was kind of like, whoa. Well, I think we were all like, oh my God, like this is the energy that we're on. Like, this is really what y'all doing, Stranger Things. This is what you gonna do to us, really? So the Duffer Brothers were just like, yeah, we're just going full like 80s horror with you guys, I guess. But yeah, so she dies and that's where it ends. And so, going into the next episode, like once they find out that she's gone or that she died, like Eddie's going to be to blame for it. And so that setup was like really, really good because again, everybody's just like, oh my God, like what's going to happen, dude? Like, this is crazy. And I think I feel like as an audience, we kind of wanted to see a little bit more of Chrissy, because the way they introduced her and they had her so heavily in the first episode, it made it seem like, I don't know, it made it seem like maybe she was still going to be there in the next episode, but that didn't happen. And I think that happens a lot. I feel like, I mean, I'm no horror expert. I really don't watch horror movies like that, but I think that usually happens in at least a lot of older horror films where like the opening scene is usually like the one girl or the one person they end up dying in the first scene. And then you kind of know that like, there's going to be more deaths to come, like Scream, like how Drew Barrymore dies in the first, I think she's in the first scene. She dies. It's kind of like that. And so, yeah. So your girl, Chrissy, RIP to her. She's gone. She's a goner. It was like really bad though. I was just like, dang, like he really got her. Like got her good. And I was like, and not only with Eddie, but just like I was like with Jason and everybody, like she's popular. So I'm like, if she turns up missing or she turns up dead, it's gonna be like a whole thing in the whole town and stuff. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what ends up happening in the next episode. I'll definitely talk more about that next week. I'll go over episode 2. I don't want to like go into that yet again because so much happens. I want to try to like split them up and everything just so I have time to talk about each episode this season. And then another thing that I wanted to talk about too was with Lucas. That's what I wanted to discuss. I was like, there's something I'm forgetting to talk about. I wanted to talk about Lucas. And before I do that, I did want to let you guys know that my podcast is sponsored by Streann Media. I know, bad timing, but I did want to let you guys know that in case you forgot that I said that earlier. You are able to, I'm sorry, I'm moving my cord here so this is not in the way. You are able to use the Streann Studio software just like I'm able to. It's free for anybody to use. And like I said, I'll try to kind of play around a little bit with like the different features that they have, just so you guys can see what you can do. And then hopefully it'll encourage you to try it yourself. You don't have to do a podcast. You could just do live streaming if you like. You can pretty much use it however you want to. You're able to connect to pretty much a lot of the main social media channels. They make it easy for you. So like when I go live, all I really need to do is press go live and I connect it to my Facebook profile and then I'm live. And then it lets me know in the corner that I'm live streaming, how long I've been live streaming. So it's pretty cool. They kind of have everything set up for you as a podcaster, as a content creator, as a person who just wants to live stream. If you want to do like gaming or something like that, I know that's really popular now. So yeah, you could do a lot of stuff with Streann Studio. It doesn't have to be podcasts like me, but whatever content you create, please do tag Streann Media to let them know that you're using the Streann Studio software, and tag me as well because I would love to support other content creators. And then hopefully maybe we can collaborate if you end up using Streann Studio. So yeah, let me get back to what I wanted to say about Lucas before I forget. So my thing with Lucas, like I noticed, like since season 4 has come out, I've been watching, I don't know why, I've just been really into Stranger Things reactions and like discussions and stuff. I feel like I didn't really do that with the last season, but I don't know, I guess because this season was just such a it was just so huge, and I think it was really anticipated too. But it was just such a huge season. I really wanted to see how other people were reacting to it, and so I was going on YouTube and typing in Stranger Things for reactions, and like so many people are reacting to it. And I kind of recommend going to see that if you haven't, because a lot of them are like funny, especially when it's like groups of people reacting to it for the first time. But yeah, I noticed like with all the reactions I was watching, specifically with episode one, a lot of people were like doubting Lucas and calling him like a sellout and all this stuff. And I was like, hold on, my boy Lucas like that. I'm like, when has Lucas ever been like, when has he ever not been a real friend? You know what I'm saying? I know that, yes, he's a part of the basketball team and they're a little bit older. And he talks about wanting to be a part of the popular crowd because he doesn't want to be bullied anymore. I mean, can you blame him? Because they were bullied, I think, in middle school and stuff. So it's just like he doesn't want that for himself in high school. He wants better. He wants better for all of them, not just him. And I feel like that's a real friend too. He's not just going, hey, I'm gonna go be with the popular kids. You guys can go be nerds. He's like, no, I want to be a part of the popular crowd so you guys can be too, so we can all have a better high school experience. Now, obviously, being a part of the popular crowd, we know as an adult, that doesn't, that's not really doesn't really mean anything in the end. Like it's not. I think when you're in high school, it feels like the end of the world when you're not, when you're not really cool or you don't really have a bunch of friends, or it's hard for you to make friends and that kind of thing. So again, I understand that they're all young and stuff, and so of course he's gonna want to be popular. Like, why would you not want to be popular? And I mean, obviously, Mike and Dustin didn't care about that because they just wanted to be a part of Hellfire Club because that's kind of like what they've always known since they were kids. Um, but I think I just think Lucas had a different vision for him and his friends. So I wasn't mad at him for that. But I think a lot of people are just like, oh, come on, Lucas, why are you? And I'm like, come on, like, you know what it's like to be in high school. Um, and I don't think that to me, he wasn't like different. It wasn't like he was acting different or changing his personality or anything. And he wasn't ditching his friends to try to be popular. I mean, yes, he wanted, so there was this whole thing, if you guys didn't know, that he wanted, his friends to come to the basketball game to support him. And then his friends were like, well, no, we want you to, come to the Hellfire Club because we have this big like D&D game. And basically neither one of them wanted to compromise. It was kind of like, well, this is important to me. And they're like, well, this is important to me. So like, what are we going to do? And Lucas was basically just like asking him as a friend, like, can you just come to my basketball game? Like, this is really important to me. And they didn't do it. And so I think people were, like when we were watching it, people were kind of taking sides going, well, Lucas shouldn't he shouldn't try to be a part of the popular crowd, blah, 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 because that's not important. And at the end of the day, it's not. But I think when you're in high school, it feels like a much bigger deal, like I said. And I felt like that wasn't unreasonable for him to ask his friends to come to his basketball game for support. Even if they're not really into basketball, they don't really care anything about sports. It's like, as a friend, I still would be like, yeah, like, okay, I'll come and support you. And the reason why they didn't want to come basically is because it was the same night as, like I said, Hellfire Club. And so, they basically were kind of just like, no, this is kind of like a bigger priority than a basketball game. And I thought that was kind of silly that Mike was like, well, just ask your coach to move the basketball game. I'm like, you can't do that. Especially him, because he's like on the bench. He's not even the captain or anything like that. Like, there's no way he would be able to go like, hey, coach, I have a D&D game same night. Can we move it? Like, that just it would not have happened. So I thought that was kind of like silly that he asked that. But again, I understand that they all have different interests now and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about that. I kind of wanted to defend Lucas a little bit there because I think people were kind of giving him a hard time. And just trying to, it was like they didn't have any faith in him. And I'm like, you guys, like, he's still Lucas. Yes, they're older and everything, but to me, he didn't show any signs of him being, like I said, trying to be something that he wasn't or anything like that. He just wanted to be a part of the in crowd, like a lot of kids do. So yeah, that was a point I wanted to make. But you guys can let me know what you think. Like, when you watched the episode, were you like, against Lucas. Did you understand where he was coming from? I understood where both sides were coming from, to be honest. Like with all of them, I think that's the thing with this show is like with all the kids, you have empathy for them because they all have gone through a lot. Um, and they all have their own little personal things that they're dealing with, whether it be internally or externally, and just you just have I just have a lot of empathy for all of them. It's like they're all my kids and everything, so I feel for each one of them, and I understand both sides. But again, I just kind of felt the need to defend Lucas because I think a lot of people were kind of like being a little hard on him, and I was like, that's not cool. I was like, don't come after Lucas. Like Lucas is cool. Don't like that. Uh, and then I'll get into it more next week, but as the episodes go on, and in season 4, you'll see that Lucas is still Lucas, and that he didn't, wasn't like some major change of him trying to be popular. That wasn't what it was, is what I'm saying. So yeah, you guys can let me know what you think about Lucas or what you thought about that whole thing. Like, whose side did you take? Were you on Mike and Dustin's side? Were you on Lucas's side? Did you see it from both sides like I did? Um, and maybe what would you guys have done in that situation if you were a part of something and you had another friend that was like, "Hey, I want you to come to support me," and you kind of didn't really want to? Like, would you go anyway just because that's your friend? I feel like I would have. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of address that. And then I think I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. Again, I don't want to talk too much as far as like giving every little detail away in the first episode. It's better if you guys see it for yourself. And I think most of you guys have seen it already. Because when Stranger Things comes out, it's like an event, y'all. Like everybody that watches it pretty much binge watches it. There's no way to watch one episode and go, okay, I'm going to watch the next one next week or something. Like, you just can't do it because you just have to see what's going to happen next. And I mean, Netflix, they know that. The people that create the show, they do that on purpose. They know people are just going to sit there and like binge watch it. And then it's going to go up to like #1 most like ranked show on Netflix and everything. But yeah, this season has been pretty amazing. I mean, the acting was on point. The cinematography was really, really good. I mean, they were going like full on cinematic with this season, and I makes sense because I'm pretty sure they have the budget for that now since it's so popular. And the writing was good, and it was just really emotional too. Like, I mean, besides the horror, I mean, the horror element obviously stood out, but it was like really emotional too. Like, again, I feel like it's really easy to connect with each character. And just as a whole, you just feel like I want to protect these kids because they've been through a lot, and they're only like what, 15? They're only freshmen in high school. I mean, I know like Steve and Nancy and Jonathan are a little bit older, but they're basically kids too. Um, and so yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of episode 1. I mean, there's probably some other parts that I left out. Um, you guys can let me know maybe like what your favorite part of episode 1 was. What did you think about Chrissy's death? I don't know why I'm smiling because it's really not funny. I think I'm smiling because it's just like I still can't believe they really did that. Like, and not just to her. We'll see, y'all. You'll see when I get into it later next week. I mean, how Vecna did some of these other people because he's ruthless, you guys. But yeah, let me know like what you thought about episode 1 in the comments and everything. What you would want me to talk about next week. I'm going to be talking about episode 2. But if there's something specific that you want me to discuss, or if even you would like to come on and join me to talk about Stranger Things, please let me know. I'm happy to have guests on. And I could definitely have more than one guest, you guys, so it doesn't just have to be like a one-on-one thing. If you guys ever wanted to do a group thing, like a roundtable discussion, we could definitely do that. We could definitely set that up because I feel like that would be really fun for everybody to have like their own opinions and perspectives and everything. And the cool thing about talking about Stranger Things is there's so many freaking theories out there for this show. Like, I don't think I've ever seen one show have so many fan theories, and a lot of them are actually pretty good. I'll read because I'm in a Facebook group that talks about Stranger Things, but I see it on Twitter and everything too. So it's not just that. I see it on Tumblr. I see it everywhere. But the theories are like crazy. Like, some of the stuff is pretty good to the point where I'm like, okay, I can believe that. And then other stuff, I'm like, hold on, where are y'all getting this from? Like, some stuff, I'm like, y'all are just reaching at this point. Um, And there's something else I definitely wanted to discuss that I have in mind. I'm gonna have to write this down, but I'll say again, I'll probably save it for next week or another week as we get further into season 4. And it definitely has to do with Mike and Will. If you know, you know. But y'all, I gotta talk about that because I have some things to say about that. But yeah, like I said, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Let me know what you guys thought about the first episode, what you would like to hear me talk about in next week's episode. As you guys know, I stream live on my Facebook page every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So tune in to see me talk about Stranger Things again and again and again, because we have a lot more episodes to talk about. And y'all, each episode is like an hour and a half. The last episode 9, was like 2.5 hours. So this is like I was gonna say like short films, but basically it's like movie episodes. They're not even like TV episodes anymore. They're just straight up movies. So it's a lot. Um, yeah, and I would love to kind of even maybe talk about specific characters a little bit more too. So again, let me know like what you want me to talk about, and I'll talk about it, or I'll do my best to discuss it. And then let's see. Again, I always have to think: is there something I'm forgetting? Because I feel like there's going to be something else that I'm going to want to say, and I'm not going to remember it until I log off. Yeah, I think that's it. I feel like I covered the majority of episode 1. Again, there might be some stuff that I left out, but oh well. And yeah, I'm excited to be talking about Stranger Things. Like, I feel like this is going to be really fun. And I will see you guys next week on Tuesday. And again, like, I appreciate any type of comments or interactions that you guys want to do. I feel like that will make it more fun for me. If you guys answer my questions in the comments, or again, if you want to hit me up on Twitter, on Facebook, or you can even comment on my YouTube page or anything like that, and I'll definitely answer any questions. Or if you guys want to get a discussion going, please do that in the comments. I would love to see that. And again, sorry if you haven't seen season 4 and this is all spoilers to you. I'm sorry. I really just don't want to go back and talk about the first 3 seasons. It's just too much, you guys. It's too much. Don't make me do it. So yeah, we're just focusing on season 4, baby. And I will see you guys. I'm sorry. I will see you guys next week. Toodle-doo.